Tilmanam, good morning. My name is Vanessa Quezada. I'm a member of the Pilam Coahuiltecan Nation or Harame clan, and I'm also on the Council for Peace and Dignity Journeys for the Eagle Condor Quetzal Council. We basically just help keep things connected and moving, and I'm super thankful to be here today from Yanawana. I got to run in with the Peace and Dignity Journeys into my home territory, and it's been a beautiful receiving. It was so beautiful to be received by so many different relatives in circle and families. And yesterday was an incredible day. It was, we started at Barton Springs, and there's a group of youth in Austin and called the Indigenous Movement Crew. They've been coming together and doing some work around protecting the springs, and they're the ones that Rocio Villalobos and Alberto Mejia and Rodrigo Leal worked on a route, and that route brought us starting the prayer in East Austin, which historically we've been received by Poder, Silvia Herrera, and Susana Almanza, and then started there. We went to Barton Springs, and then from Barton Springs we did a water blessing in San Marcos Springs and another blessing at Comal Springs, and then we ended here at San Pedro Springs. And it's been a beautiful prayer to reconnect our springs and for each of us to really experience the beauty of this land. We actually ran through the Camino Real, and so that was part of this prayer is reactivating our trade routes and becoming more sensitive to the ways that we traveled in the past. And so each step that we take is a prayer, and it's reconnecting us, and it's prayer for all of our relations. And so in this way, it was wonderful to meet the community from Austin. And when we started that blessing in Barton Springs, once we started that blessing, then started raining, and to see all the raindrops on the springs was a really big gift. And then when we had completed, it stopped raining. And so those are beautiful affirmations from the ancestors and blessings, that for us to keep going, for us to continue with this beautiful work. And it was really shocking for me to get to Comal Springs because it's the lowest that I've ever seen it. And so I was running with MJ Leon, who was running with the main staff and carried the main staff today, the lead staff, and I was showing him how to get to the springs, and as we came up, I just felt like someone punched me in the stomach. And to see the springs so low, really just like shifted my whole and everything, and it just took the wind out of me, I guess is the best way to say it. And so in that we did a blessing there, and we also met with the Great Springs Project, who is planning to do a path to all the sacred springs and to protect those springs, and also with the headwaters, folks that are working with the headwaters there in that area. And that was really important for us this year because it's been beautiful to have and carry this spiritual prayer for us through our culture and our spirituality, to remember to reconnect, right, to our lands and to all of the elements, including the waters. And it's been really important for us as young people to not only have that piece of opening up that genetic memory and remembering that relationship, but feeling it for ourselves so that it becomes this visceral feeling, and having those steps and those teachings to help us to repair those relationships that were broken by colonialism, and really creating that relationship. And some of the things that came out when we were doing that blessing at Comal Springs was that it's really important for us every time we come somewhere to introduce ourselves, and that spring has given us life, like our mother, and that we are thankfully able to be here. And so when we approach sacred places and life, especially a sacred place like that, like a spring, that we introduce ourselves by name, just like you're meeting your auntie. And when we get there, we also it was shared also about the importance of like, where is this water going? And so they also shared with us that a majority, I was like, why is it so low? Has it ever been this low before? And they said that yes, the people, her name was Nancy at the Headwaters Project, and she said that it had been that low. The last time it was this low, it was 1950. And so in some ways that made me feel a little bit better to know that it's been this low before and it's come back. And at the same time, she said that there was a big drought at that time and that it did come back. And she said, but now it seems like they're using the water for mainly watering lawns, which is completely unnecessary. And that's drawing from the aquifer, it's drawing from Yanaguana, right, and this water that has given us life for thousands of years between Austin and San Antonio. And so it's really important for us to bring awareness to how watering these lawns that are not native grasses, they're not native plants here, is a very unnatural thing for us to do, and there's consequences to that. And so once that, those springs are not there, we cannot live without water. And so really being able to realize that we need to open up our connections and who we're working with, because there are indigenous people that have been displaced, especially here in Texas, that have layers of colonialism and missionization that don't necessarily have access to land. And there are these organizations that don't necessarily have these relationships to the waters. They care and they have really beautiful hearts and good intentions, but I think really making that bridge between those two is an invaluable thing that we need to start to do. And so this year's run is about Tlatoa. That's the Nahuatl word. It came in from the south, and it was palabra del corazón, aliento de la vida. So word from the heart, breath of life. And so recognizing that we need to protect our languages, we need to protect our word, and make sure that when we are speaking, like how precious that is, when we share our waters with other people, that that word is coming from a good place, that it's coming from our heart, right? And that we're not speaking and reacting and taking something out on someone else, right? And so becoming more aware of those things, especially right now in this time of deep conflict and violence that's happening around us. There's a lot of distractions, right? There's a lot of distractions on social media and on the news and different places of like violent acts, and people, that's all that we're consuming and that we're seeing, we're acting that out on other people. And so being able to do these things like the Peace and Dignity Journeys, different ceremonies, even your own practices, whether it's meditation or praying or whatever words that you use to connect to everything that gives us life, the air, the water, the land, all of those things help to re-equilibrate us. And so I feel like a lot of what this prayer is teaching us is how to, number one, take care of our word, and that in taking care of our word, we are taking more responsibility for how we are outwardly affecting all of life. And that also has this reflective piece for us to take care of ourselves inside, and that is something that's going to take care of us, to help us to rebalance where we need to be on the earth, so that we can all be able to sustain life together.